Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another episode of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the likes, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you haven't done so already, and make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. And, it still hasn't been 2 weeks since the season's finished yet. It's felt a lot longer than that, but plenty is happening off the field with Chelsea. Loads of transfer rumours, loads of players getting closer to the exit door. Some players hopefully getting closer to coming to Stamford Bridge. But as of yet, no significant decisions have been made at the club. Obviously, N'Golo Kante has sadly departed, but no one else has come through the door yet. Kovacic is close to leaving, Loftus-Cheek close to leaving. We've been linked with many players, which we'll dive into in this episode. But delighted to be joined by Fathur, thanks for coming as always, bro. Great to have you here. Mate, how you doing? How you been finding a break from Chelsea? It feels long, doesn't it?
It's been great actually. I'm enjoying the summer at the right now, and it's been lovely weather for the last couple of weeks. But in terms of the news, it's been kind of somber, a mix of somber and also disappointed in that sense that we missed on a big target. But yeah, man, we've got 5 days till the window's open. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be exciting. At Chelsea, it's never boring. There's always stuff to talk about. We're always active in the transfer market. We need to be. But yeah, mate, before we get into kind of the transfer market and all the potential goings on, what did you make of the statement, the communication from the owners that we had the other day? Putting a statement out, obviously acknowledging that it had been a disappointing performance. They won a disappointing season for the men's team. Obviously, the women's team done very well. Praised Emma Hayes. They're saying that they're trying to build something. They're trying to build something at Chelsea. They want to be successful and whatnot. For me, look, it's a start. Obviously, actions speak louder than words. The results next season and the actions they take in the transfer market and whatnot will dictate kind of how well we do next season. So I suppose you can reserve judgment slightly on that side of things. But ultimately, I think it's good from them. It's nice to have communication from the owners. I think under Roman, it was very different. We had, I think, in 20 odd years, we had 2 statements. One thanking Lampard for for his service as manager when he got sacked, and one saying he was selling the club. That was it. What do you like the communication from the owners? Do you think it's a good start? Where do you stand on it? Because obviously,
for me, I think it's better late than never because it was long overdue. I think the timing of it would have been much better after the sacking of Graham Potter. I thought seeing this kind of communication and some sort of a transparency from the board level is very refreshing and also encouraging some fans. Remember ourselves that this was a season like no other because fans been crying out for clarity. It looked messy from the outside, but from the board's perspective, I'm just kind of like looking at right now at the situation that we had. You know what? At least you have a good communication by the fans. You made numerous mistakes previously, and now it's up to yourself to rectify that mistakes and make yourself a better for the future. Because at the moment, the pressure is on them. Because let's look at the fact that the amount of outgoings that we're going to have this window, it's going to take a lot of time to get these players out of the door. And the owner's got to be spot on this sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. I fully agree with you on that one. I think, you have to expect mistakes from them. The circumstances that they came into the club in, we had to rush the sale through. We weren't expecting Roman to sell, but obviously, circumstances outside of the club's control. It was a quick process where normally it's a lengthy process. We saw all best part of a year for Newcastle. This Man United takeover has been dragging on for a long time. So we were on the back foot straight away. I think that perhaps the sanctions affected our planning for the summer market. I think perhaps we maybe overspent on certain players in the summer, or we might not have gone for certain players if we had our time again. And then obviously, look, you can look at the spending in January and the decisions that they've made in terms of bringing Graham Potter in, bringing Lampard back in, etc. You can question those decisions, of course. But people go on about the January window. The reason for me why we had to spend all that money in January and bring these players in is because we've massively neglected the squad and recruitment in the last sort of 3 or 4 years of Roman's era. It was shocking. The recruitment was terrible, which is why we were in a situation where we had to go and buy that many players. So, look, for me, I've criticised them for the mistakes they've made, but they've absolutely got my backing. They've shown the intent. And, this summer's going to be crucial, though, because what they do this summer is going to determine how well we actually do in the window. But bro, where do you sit with the owners now? Like, obviously, we've criticised them where it's due. But I mean, are you fully supportive of them? Have they got to do anything to sort of earn your trust back or anything like that?
I think it's, for me, the only way that you can, from the owner's perspective, that you can earn the trust back is that you don't make any of the same mistake that previously that you guys did. And it's all about to get the right recruitment in and the right price as well. But I just think for the next couple of months' time, we're gonna have to see our patience from the set of fans, because we've got to get right players in. We need a new DM. We need at least another centre mid in replacing Kovacic. We need a goalkeeper, and we need a clinical number 9. I'm very aware that by the time we're into the next season, we need Pochettino to implement his style quickly in that preseason before the preparation for the start of next season. But I'm I'm ready. I'm ready for the long summer, man. And I hope from my perspective as a fan base, I just think that the board, I have the trust that the board will sort this out and hopefully prove us wrong. Because at the moment, you've got sets of fan base right now already turning into Bolly out, and
It's
apparently
mad.
already turning into Winstanley out in that sense. And it's just the patience that I think for me kind of like slow the progress down, because it's going to take a lot of time. We all know that, but I just think we need to stop being overreacted with these kind of transfers, because it's not going to be that easy of a progress, because we're not that quick in the sense of reacting on what other clubs are doing at the moment, and it's kind of like a slow steps into the right recovery, man. And I just hope that by the time we get that preseason, everything will be back in smooth again.
Yeah, bro, I hear you on that. I think, ultimately the only way, you're going to get the fans back on side is by getting the results. And, I've seen the same things as you see, obviously people turning against the ownership. It's just a waste of time. By all means, criticize them, but asking them to be out when they've signed up to be here for a minimum of 10 years, it's just a complete waste of time. It's not worth you putting your energy towards them in that way. And as I said, this summer will determine, and their actions will determine kind of the immediate success of Chelsea in the future. But I do back them to get things right. But you can't deny there are going to be some worries. Can we compete with the top clubs in terms of wages? In terms of, obviously we can't offer that Champions League football. Are other teams going to be more attractive to players than us? These are the questions that we're going to find the answers to. But mate, let's dive into the transfer window then. Obviously, a
Mhm.
lot of outgoings, which we'll get into, incomings as well. Let's start with the incomings. What did you? Obviously, Agate was one that we were strongly linked with. We were very close to getting it done. Outlets in Portugal were even reporting that it was done. The same outlets that were very reliable throughout the whole Enzo Fernandez transfer saga. Obviously, slightly wrong on this one. Now, depending on what reports you read, it was, PSG doubled their offer to 10 million euros a season. We didn't value the player at that, so we walked away, in which case I'm absolutely fine with it. Then you see other reports saying that, PSG were going to threaten legal action against us because we were going to, invest a minority stake in Sporting Lisbon to try and get the deal done. And that's why we pulled out. Where do you stand in that pursuit, mate? Because for me, I look at it and think if we've pulled out, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but we absolutely then have to go and get our next target. So we can't miss out on someone else. So it's clear that Agate was quite high up on the list.
I think the profile to be extremely interesting. I think for me, from the outside looking at the player itself, and he's one of the players that is elite at ball winning. He's studied in possession, but nothing else stands out yet. I think if I had to guess a bit of similarity in that sense, like it would be a pick of maybe Wilfred Ndidi, or perhaps someone like Idrissa Gueye or at Aston Villa. Even even for me, that I have some questions from about Manuel Ugarte. That is he that type of player that has the speed of getting the ball fast, also the excellent tackler as well. And also, I've been watching a few of his games, but some of the concerns that he's good, but I don't think he's that fast enough. But he's more of a mobile in the midfield, and I don't expect Ugarte to be perfect, of course, but I just think with the situation at that time, yes, maybe PSG offering a double or more than what we did, and that's why I feel like we kind of backed out in that sense. And I just don't know and don't understand how on earth that the board kind of like want to do more of a scouting the Sporting Lisbon as a whole team to get that Manuel Ugarte deal, because yes, you wanna create a great scout with between the other clubs in Europe. You've had I think the Strasbourg is one of them, is it?
Yeah. Strasbourg has been. I don't
Strasbourg
know
is
if that.
one of them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gone through, but we're definitely interested.
And then Sporting Lisbon. I understand you're trying to pull some scout and then get the young players in, but I just think we kind of like, I don't think we bottle it in that sense. I feel like there's argumentative, such as the wages that we've got at the moment is a bit of out of hand in that sense, because our wage structure is not that great at the moment, because by the time that 30th of June, we're going to have to get rid of a lot of players to avoid the FFP.
You know, mate, absolutely. So I think, the Ugarte one was weird. I would have been very happy with him. He was clearly a priority target. But for whatever reason, we decided to walk away. I mean, I trust the club. I mean, I would be surprised if we were doing something that was a little bit suspect, a bit dodgy. I would have thought that we would have checked that out if that was the case. Surely we wouldn't have been that stupid to do something which isn't allowed, or maybe we were, and we thought we'll just walk away to save the legal troubles. Who knows? But also, we've missed out on a target there, which is not the best start we could have done with him. It was clearly a high priority, but we've got other options in midfield, bro. Now, before we talk about incomings, we know that a lot of players need to leave the club and get out. We need to cut the squad down. Absolutely no two ways about it. But with the amount of players you're seeing being linked with a move away, do you worry that we're getting rid of too many potentially? And also, it seems like we're pretty much almost selling every midfielder at the club.
Not really. Just I think it's the FFP concerns that kind of like getting in my head a lot. And I haven't thought about this, getting rid of players. I feel like the midfield itself, we've got a lot of potential in that midfield. We've got Chukwuemeka in there. We've got Andre Santos. We've got, I think, the upcoming player from the Italy, Cesare Caicedo, that he went to the I think World Cup under-20 finals. That there's a lot of potential there. But for me, my concern is more of a leadership in the midfield, because you get rid of Kovacic. Now Kante is already Saudi Arabia. Jorginho's already on his way out after a 6 month spell at Arsenal. And then I've heard some reports that he's going back to Italy to linking up with Maurizio Sarri. At the moment, we're kind of stuck in the middle, because the average age in the midfield that we've got at the moment is around like 21 years old.
So
There's
young.
There's not a lot of experience out there, because Todd Bowley trying to get rid of most of the players that have been winning that Champions League, and then he's trying to rebuild those young the players that we've got with under 25 years old. So I just think that we need a player in that caliber in the midfield, like, for example, like Gundogan in that sense, to come into our team to set us an example for the players that we've got at the moment.
Yeah, no, mate, I agree, because you look at it and we could be in a situation where midfield next season we could have Enzo 22, could have Caicedo 21, we could also have Lavia 19, we could have Chukwuemeka 20 or whatever he is, 21. And then you've got Caicedo, who's 19 20. Or something, 19 or 20, and Andre 20. Santos 19 or 20. So you then got the situation where your oldest midfielder in the whole squad is 22. Now, again, age doesn't necessarily mean experience, but you would worry a little bit. Who are these young players going to learn off? Because there's no players there that are, have kind of been there and done it and can kind of teach them the ropes as such. Just Enzo Fernandez, despite his youth, is a very experienced player in terms of he's won a World Cup, he's won a Copa America. He's played in the Champions League and those sorts of things for sure. But to rely on him suddenly as your most experienced midfielder, sort of 6 months after he's arrived, is quite a big. It's quite a big question. It's quite a big responsibility to put on his shoulders. And you look at, obviously, Kovacic has gone out, Kante's gone out. Looks like Loftus-Cheek's going to leave. Conor Gallagher could potentially leave as well. Mason Mount could be on his way out. like there's a lot of all those, I mean, maybe minus Gallagher, all those other players that potentially could be going out the door is all experience. And you run a bit of you do run a tricky one. Before we get back into incomings, mate, I just want to touch on an outgoing. How do you feel about Kante's departure? Because I think a lot of fans quite sad about it. We didn't get to say goodbye to him. We weren't really sure what was happening. He's given great service to us, one of the best midfielders in the world. One of the best midfielders to ever play for Chelsea, for sure. Are you sad that he's gone?
A bit of emotional in that sense, and I think the attachment within the club and Kante as a player, I think it's been emotional, right, in that sense. And let's remember, Kante have won the league with Leicester in 2016.
Yeah,
and you could have thought that he wants to play in the Champions League football, but no, he wants to leave the club as a Premier League winner to come to Chelsea under Antonio Conte and then win another league title. And then from there onwards, he just keeps improving. It's been at least 2 times I can think of that he's been part of that Ballon d'Or nominee. And for me, I think he should have won at least one of the Ballon d'Or, in my opinion, because of the Champions League performance that I've seen from him. That was exceptional. And I just think that even though he hasn't won that League Cup, that's a trophy, the trophy that he's hasn't won yet in this CV. But I think everything that he's been through, especially for the past of last year, the injury that he's had, it's unfortunate that it ended like that, man. And I love the guy as a player, and I just hope that before he gets retired, I think his dream for me, the way that I look at this move at that, because he's a Muslim player, he wants to get that Hajj before his retirement. So go get your piece, man. And I love the guy for the pieces, and wish him the best of luck to him, man.
My guy can finally go and upgrade his mini, mate. Mate, guys have got the peas to spend on maybe something a bit better than a mini. But no, he's a humble guy. I don't think the money's really part of it. Of course, it might be a contributing factor, but ultimately, I guess like this departure for me is different to Eden Hazard in the sense that, you know, we aren't losing Kante at the peak of his powers. He had kind of been gradually phased out over the last 18 months purely because he just wasn't fit, and we've played a lot of games without him. We knew this kind of moment was coming. Clearly, we couldn't compete financially with the Saudi offer. I perhaps don't think we could give him guarantees over the amount of minutes he would want. Considering we're only playing once a week, there probably wasn't going to be an awful lot of rotation either. And there's that worry about his fitness record, his injury record, which is not good. You know, we saw him out from August to April pretty much last season, comes back for a few games, looks decent, injured again, misses the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Like, I don't think we're in a position to be paying someone the money that he's on. Yeah, okay, could have taken a salary drop. But, you know, is that money worth what you get from Kante when he spends most of the season on the treatment table? I think ultimately, as sad as it is and as grateful as we are for everything he's done, it probably was the right time for him to move on. And it looks like we're now finally moving on from that kind of Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic midfield that we've had for so many years now. And it probably is the right thing. Do you think there would have been any benefits to keeping him, mate, outside of experience? Because I look, footballing wise, of course, there's ability there, but I don't know. I'm not sure how often he would have played either.
I'm just worried about experience as well in the midfield, like you said. And if we were to keep him, I don't think he's going to play a lot of games this season. And I just think by keeping one of those 3 experienced players, kind of like sets the tone up for the upcoming players like Enzo Fernandez, likes of Chukwuemeka, likes of Lavia, Caicedo, anyone that underage of around like 23-ish. They're gonna set a tone for those players to becoming the upcoming star for this football club. And it kind of baffles me a lot because I feel like if we keep one of those guys in, but it's going to be a lot of different story in that sense. And I just don't know where we're going with this kind of like without the experience that we've got at the moment. And it's sad. It's sad to see that at the state that we are in at the moment. But I'm just hoping that something will be sorted out in the next couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, no, but absolutely, bro. I mean, in terms of Kovacic leaving as well, looks like it's going to go to Manchester City. Personal terms are agreed. Obviously, the clubs are going to meet to discuss a fee once the Champions League final has concluded. Do you think that's the right move as well for him to leave? I mean, I think for me, the last 12 months, it's been clear that his head's not really been at it. His level of performance hasn't been anywhere near to what it was over the previous years. It's clear that he wants a new challenge. He's happy to go. I think the club are happy to let him go. Look, he's been a good player for us, no two ways about it. But I look at it and I think, well, I think you can replace that. But we don't need to replace it. We need to upgrade on it. It's not hard to replace he doesn't get many goals, doesn't get many assists. So from that perspective, I think we can definitely upgrade on him and move on from him quite easily. But I know that others view Kovacic in a different way. You know, obviously we were managing his minutes earlier in the season because he had a bit of a knee problem. Then he suddenly goes and starts every game for Croatia at the World Cup, comes back, isn't really fit for us. What's going on there with all that sort of stuff? But mate, how do you view Kovacic's time at Chelsea? And do you think ultimately it's the right time to move him on as well?
He's very inconsistent, and he tends to go into a long spell of crap performances, and you will be wondering if he's actually is he training or is he carrying an injury? He's the same player like Nemanja Matic in that sense. Had a bad patch. It seems like normal games for him. He isn't consistent at all, in my opinion, and he doesn't offer enough. And he has one good game and then 5 bad games. He sometimes looks lost and doesn't understand the role. I really think that if you want to compare him to that Matic in that sense, I think Matic was more consistent, performing better than him, especially considering that he's playing the Matic role. And those trademark twists kind of like turn of him to kind of like giving the edge, because I think for him, like I think he declines a lot in that sense. And I'm not sure, man. I feel sorry for him in that sense. Like, if he wants to go out, I think he wants to go out since a long time ago. And I could not be coming better at a better time as well. Like, to go to a rival, for me, a bit of suspect, but the guy's already won a lot on his CV, and I wouldn't be like, want to play for Man City for Pep Guardiola. I'm like, why not, innit? Like,
yeah. But mate, I agree, and you get people that say, "Why are we selling to City?" Ultimately, there probably were other clubs interested in, but money talks. We need to get the best price possible, and ultimately, Premier League teams are going to be the teams that can offer the most money for these players. Like Kovacic probably could have gone to Serie A somewhere. Maybe he could have gone to somewhere in La Liga, but they're not going to offer the price that Man City are going to offer. So, unfortunately, when we got this many players to sell, some of those players are going to end up at rival teams, at other Premier League teams, and I think Kovacic will do well there. It won't matter that he doesn't get many goals or assists because they've got De Bruyne that does that. They've got other players that do that in the midfield, so the impetus won't be on him to do that. And I think he'll slot in there quite nicely because he is obviously a very good footballer, but his lack of goals and assists won't matter at Manchester City, where in Chelsea's midfield, that massively matters because we've got no one that does it. So I think it's a lot of change, but it's the end of the road for him, I feel. He doesn't want to be here anymore, which I think has been obvious from the last season or so. And we're happy to let him go. We can still get a decent price for him with a year left on the contract. And we wish him well and he moves on. I think that's ultimately the best scenario for all parties involved. So, yeah, Kovacic will move on as well, which is kind of mad. A lot of guys moving on, but mate, in terms of incomings in the midfield, then we have touched on obviously players going out. I've always maintained that we need one big midfield signing plus another not so big one. So maybe like a Lavia or a Kone or whatever, or a Kefram Turan, one of those guys, plus either a Declan Rice or a Moises Caicedo. Now, Declan Rice seems unlikely. Arsenal seems to be leading the race for him. Never say never with Chelsea though, but we seem to be falling out of the race, or we're just not really anywhere near the top in terms of competing for his signature. But having said that, I think we can definitely match Arsenal's bid. No two ways about it. We could probably bid more financially. Do you think, even though it seems unlikely for Rice, do you think we should just throw everything at it anyway? And just see what we can do, because ultimately I don't think we've got anything to lose. Yes, we might get bantered. He chose us over you. We might get a bit of banter, like a bit of a Mudryk reversal situation there. But for me, I think when you've got a player of Declan Rice's quality on the market, to not even try and go for him, in my opinion, is unforgivable. I think we just have to just go for it and see what happens. Where do you stand on it, mate?
I'm not Rice's biggest fan here. Don't get me wrong. And for me, the perfect midfield that I would prefer is Caicedo, Enzo, and Lavia. I think it would be a perfect midfield rebuild. And I'm not going to complain a lot about age and leadership. I think it's going to take at least one more year for me that Enzo will become a proper leader.
Yeah.
Even though for me it's like Declan Rice is more overpriced in my opinion, and a lot of people understand like to spend the money. We got money in the bank. It's like why don't we throw in 100 mil? It's not about that. It's about that we have to keep that financial in a sustainable way because we cannot keep spending a lot of overpriced money for a player that has been overhyped a lot by a lot of fan base. And my problem is that for me, now we spend over, if you spend on Rice at this time alone, you literally spend over £1 billion over a year after you took over the club last year. You're going to have to expect that you have to gonna get these results as quick as possible. That is why, for me, the expectation of the fan base has to be changed because these guys will not be patient if let's say if we because the amount of players that we've had and it should not be excuse when it comes to next season. But I just think we need to move on from Declan Rice. I think Lavia Caicedo for me is the perfect fit.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I mean, I think Declan Rice is great. I do feel we should try. But ultimately, like if we know the answer's no, then fair enough. But I don't think there's any harm in trying for me. And we
Mm.
need one of those two players. I think we can all agree on that. We definitely need a Rice or a Caicedo. We have to get one of them because, if we were to miss out on both of them, I don't know where that leaves us. But we would be slightly fucked. I don't know where you go from there in terms of other options on the market. Yeah, of course there'll be some, but it certainly won't be in our top two choices. We'll be dropping down a little bit. But on
I'm
Caicedo,
very I'm very surprised that we haven't approached Palhinha for Fulham.
yeah, I'm surprised as well. There's not really been any no like concrete links from any sources on a move for him, which I
Mm.
agree with you, bro. I find that surprising. Another former Sporting Lisbon midfielder has had a very good season in the Premier League with Fulham. That would be a decent signing. I'm surely he must be being looked at by clubs. I'd find it hard to believe that he wasn't being looked at clubs. But again, I think that's another very good option potentially as well. But let's chat Caicedo. Obviously, Arsenal are in the race for him as well as us. Possibly Manchester United could be entering that race also. Arsenal had a couple of bids turned down in January, about £70 million. We had a bid turned down of 55 mil. So he signed a new contract subsequently, but obviously they would have said, look, sign this contract, and if we get a certain amount of money for you, we'll sell you, which is fair. What do you make of all this talk of Brighton wanting Levi Colwell as part of the deal? Where do you stand on that? Because it's clear that Colwell is a very talented boy. He's had a good season on loan at Brighton. The way I see it is I would like to keep Colwell ideally because of how good he could be and his potential. But when I look at it for next season, our need for Caicedo is far greater than our need for Levi Colwell next season. We desperately need Moises Caicedo. We don't necessarily need Levi Colwell next season, which is why ultimately, if push came to shove and we had to include him as part of the deal, then I would probably be happy to do that. I mean, where do you sit on it, mate?
I think Levi Cole was one of the players that I've been monitoring over the last year, and he's been great in the Brighton shirt. Don't get me wrong, and I think we need more of a defensive midfielder more than we need Levi Colwell. Levi Colwell, for me, at Chelsea at the moment, he's not getting a start ahead of Silva or maybe Fofana or Badiashile. If let's say Koulibaly's staying, he's not getting a start over them either. So plus we got Trevor Chalobah as well. That's staying. That's like five centre backs at the
It's
team
too
that you got
many.
right now. There's too many of them that you got to sacrifice one of them at least. And if we trying to throw a deal like of Levi Cole for Caicedo, why not in it? Like we need a money on our team as well. Like we need a player like Caicedo because for me he's the right fit for that we've got right now. And at the moment you've got Lavia as well that coming in as well. And I'm just impressed by Caicedo as a player that he's got that tenacity and aggressive approach. While he may be, I think he's still considerably a raw prior experience in the Premier League. I think it makes him a valuable asset and more. affordable price than Ugarte and exhibits a great potential as a solid defensive midfielder at Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I would agree, mate. He ticks a lot of boxes. He reminds me a lot of N'Golo Kante in terms of the work rate he's got off the ball. He's good on the ball. He gets up and down the pitch. He gets all over the pitch really well. Do you think that £75 million, £80 million is a fair price for him? Again, this is someone that was signed a couple of years ago for £4.5 million from somewhere in South America. He's played less than 50 games for Brighton. It's a massive jump in price and quite an upward trajectory for him in his career. But would you think that would be money well spent? Do you think that's a fair price for him?
Oh, obviously, yeah. Like, I mean, Ugarte cost about 60 mil going to from PSG from Sporting Lisbon, and it's an affordable price. Like, you cannot find not a lot of defensive midfielder out there in the market that are available to us that can be that wow factors to us at the moment, you know. And I think Caicedo can be playing as a number 6, you know, and also number 8 in that sense. Like, let's say if Enzo Fernandez get injured, he can be the one that's taking over. He can play alongside Lavia in that sense. And it's just I just love to see kind of like what Pochettino are going to do. He's going to be doing with Caicedo in that sense. And looking forward to it and what kind of formation that he's going to be suited for next season. And I'd be surprised that he's going to put Enzo Lavia in midfield if we get Lavia in that sense. But it's a massive headache in that sense, but I'm looking forward to the system that is going to implement it for us.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. But I mean, ultimately on Caicedo, I think it's quite simple, really. We either offer the money Brighton want, or we have to include Levi Colwell as part of the deal. There's not really any other solutions to that problem. So, I mean, what do you think we'll end up doing? Do you feel that at this point in time, I know it's early, but I mean, what's your kind of gut feeling on this? Do you think we will get Caicedo?
Bear in mind, Roberto De Zerbi loved Levi Colwell, and he would dying hard to keep him in the club as possible. Bear in mind, they've got Europa League next season as well.
Well, exactly.
As a factor. So it depends on Levi Colwell itself. Like, if you want to play in the European football with Roberto De Zerbi, take that move. And also because in exchange we got Caicedo as well. So I think with some people, I understand you get upset because Levi Colwell can have a future potential at this team. But at the moment, we have to think in a business wise that we need a midfielder in a sense that defensive midfielder so badly. And at the moment, Caicedo is one of those players out there that can play 8, that can play 6. He can play a multiple types of role within that midfield alongside Enzo. And if I was Favell or Winstanley handling the negotiation, I would put Levi Colwell in that sense. That I just think from Levi Colwell's perspective that he doesn't want to miss European football for next season, and Roberto De Zerbi loves him in his system, and the fact that they're gonna play a lot of games next season. Levi Colwell's guarantees will start a lot of games next season.
Yeah, I don't think at Chelsea we can give those guarantees. As we've just gone through, we've got 6 centre backs on the books. One's going to have to leave. We haven't got any European competition. There's not going to be that many games. There's not going to be a lot of rotation, particularly in a centre back positions. You don't want to be rotating at centre back. You want to get yourself a settled partnership, and you only rotate through injury or suspension, basically. So I don't really know how many realistic opportunities he's going to get at Chelsea next season. I understand that he's a very exciting prospect and that Pochettino is a big fan of him and he's part of the plans potentially. I just don't know where he fits in those plans. You could argue that him and Badiashile would be fighting for that left centre-back spot. And then obviously Thiago Silva and Fofana, Chalobah, Koulibaly and whatnot fighting it out for the other spot. But as we've said, bro, it's too many centre-backs. It's too many centre-backs. If we're employing a back 4, you probably need 5 centre-backs. You might even be able to get away with 4. I honestly think that. I think we could get away with 4. But I mean, out of the pool of centre backs, it's clear that one's got to go, and it's obviously going to be between Koulibaly and Chalobah. For you, mate, who would you like to see go out of those 2?
I've been reading a lot of rumors about Koulibaly's going to Italy and enter, and I heard that we're trying to do kind of some sort of an exchange deal for the Onana Inter as a goalie. So if he wants to go, if I had to choose one player, probably I say Koulibaly in that sense, just purely because that I just think that the pace of the league is too much for him. It's too difficult, and now he's already aging, 33 years old now. It's not going to be that easy to adapt. And if we can't sell him this season, by the time Pochettino comes, it's going to be a lot more difficult than normally would from last year, and he's going to have to step up. Otherwise, it's going to be sold by the next summer.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually quite like him. I think he's done reasonably well this season, all things considered. Yes, he's had a number of poor games, and he's made mistakes and whatnot. He's on big money, but you would think, well, we only just signed him last summer. We offered him we offered him a 5-year contract, around 200 grand a week. It's gonna be pretty hard to get rid of him. He's not going to get 200 grand a week in Italy from anywhere, so he'd have to take a pay cut. And ultimately, I look at him and I think it's experience. But again, how often is he going to play? Is he really going to be a better option than Badiashile? Is he going to be a better option than Fofana? How much is Pochettino going to use Thiago Silva next season? We don't really know. But look, I think it would be a shame if we got rid of Koulibaly after a season, having waited so long to try and get him. But at the same time, I look at it and I think, well, when are you going to play? And it would make more sense that to keep Chalobah, who is actually versatile, can play multiple positions at the back, and he's got years ahead of him to develop into a better player. Whereas you look at Koulibaly and you think, well, at 33 years of age, that's probably your lot. I can't see him developing that much more as a player. But again, there's going to be a lot of these centre backs that aren't going to be playing that many minutes next season, and that's going to be a tricky kind of juggling act for Pochettino to get right in that situation. But in terms of other players at the back, mate, what do you think we do of Lewis Hall next season? Do you think it's best for him to go on loan? Obviously, we've got Chilwell and Cucurella as the left backs. Cucurella's had a tricky first season. I don't think he's going to be sold. I can't see an offer coming in from anyone that would be anywhere near acceptable for the club. I think everyone deserves a second season. So I'd give him another chance. But I mean, what do you think would be best for Lewis Hall? Because he's done really well the last few games of the season. He's actually predominantly a midfield player. Do you think there's a space in the first team squad for him next season? Or do you think he needs to go out on loan somewhere and just play every week?
It's a tricky spot for him because we're going to play 51 games next season if you include the domestic cup finals. So in the first team, I can see him starting for the most week during the cup games.
Yeah.
But on the league games, I just don't think he's going to be falling behind Chilwell and Cucurella in that sense. Don't forget the fact that some of the left back that we've got at the moment is more of an injury-prone players. Chilwell just coming back from that ACL injury. He hasn't looked the same for me since that injury. Cucurella had a poor first stint in the Chelsea season. And Lewis Hall, the last few games have been impressed for me. I think with the right system and the right guidance, I think he's going to be a great player and he's going to be challenging for that left back spot. I wouldn't loan him out, that's for sure, just purely because I think you can get a run of him during that domestic cup games.
Yeah, it just depends if that's going to be enough for him, if that's going to be enough to help his development, I suppose. But look, I think he's definitely worth keeping around the place. I think he can be important for the club. But it's a tricky situation because ultimately, whatever we think, he is third choice at left back. And he probably isn't going to play that much in midfield either. So you're then stuck. Well, what do we do with him? Yes, Chilwell does pick up a few injuries. Cucurella has picked up injuries as well. So there could be opportunities there. But again, if Chilwell's over his fitness injuries, and Cucurella kind of shows the form that made us sign him, then unfortunately, you're looking at very few opportunities for Lewis Hall potentially next season. And in which case, a loan move probably would be better for us in that scenario. But let's kind of wait and see what happens on that one. Let's move this on to the attack. Let's start with outgoings there. Kai Havertz to Real Madrid. Now, again, depending on what you read, Madrid saying that £52 million plus bonuses is too expensive. Now, they might genuinely think that, or they could be looking at it and using it as a tactic to get Chelsea to lower their asking price, because teams know that we need to get rid of players, so they're going to try and lowball us by offering us less money than we ideally want. I think right now, for me, if we set the asking price at that price, I think there's no harm before the window's open to kind of test the market and see if there's any takers at that price. And obviously, as time goes on, we'll have to reduce that price in order to get these guys out the door. But for you, mate, is time for Kai Havertz to leave? Kind of time to move on from that? 3 years, we've not really had anything from him at all. Obviously, we're grateful for the Porto goal. We always will be. But in terms of any level of consistency in the Premier League and looking anything like the player that we paid £72 million for, it's been a really poor return on our investment. And I think he wants to move. He wants Real Madrid. So I think we have to make this happen because we can't have him turning up to pre-season not wanting to be here.
I think for me, you know what? If he wants to leave, like, I will be not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves by the summer. But I'm just looking at it as that I'm worried about the process of buying and selling players by Chelsea at the moment because everything, it seems slow. Even though this team needs a lot of overhaul to rise for next season, and that the one thing that we cannot afford to guarantee is that do not repeat the same mistake from last season. Because if Chelsea would be buying Kai, there is no way we would sell him for at least 60 million or less. And therefore, if the offer is lower, we shouldn't even pick up the phone. It's the same application to like Mason Mount and Conor Gallagher. And Havertz for me is one of the few players out there we should sell less than the market value. At the moment, like if let's say the worst case is that if Poch wants to keep him, he's gonna be a rotation alongside Nkunku because number 10 seems a solid combo, considering the fact that Nkunku's injury history. Let's say, for example, if Bellingham is worth 100 million, there's no way Havertz worth that 50% less. So if we get 50 million for Havertz at the moment, then you should take it.
Yeah, mate, I'd take 50 million for Havertz. Ultimately, it's not worked out. I think Real Madrid would be a great move for him. You know, I think it's fair to say, whilst he's been terrible for Chelsea, he is obviously still a very good player. He's got ability. There's talent there. We're just not going to see it in a Chelsea shirt, and we're not going to see it in the Premier League. I think La Liga, different characteristics to the league, could suit his playing style a lot better. Perhaps more time on the ball, a bit more space, and all that sort of thing. You could see the best of Kai Havertz, but you know, ultimately, I don't think Chelsea can realistically expect to get their money back or anywhere close to their money back, given that 3 years on, his performances have been shocking. So obviously the value is going to go down. It's probably going to go down by about 20 to 25 million pounds, which I actually think is quite fair given what we've seen from him over the 3 years. You know, I understand that Chelsea want to try and drum up some more interest, get a bit of a bidding war going potentially. You know, Arsenal rumored to be interested. Obviously Real Madrid and supposedly another club, maybe Bayern Munich. But I think now that Tuchel's there, that interest might have died down. Mate, can you see Arsenal like making their interest more serious in Havertz? I was surprised when I read that they were kind of keeping an eye on the situation. I don't really see where he would fit in there.
I'm just surprised of how they link it up with Havertz in that sense. I would have thought that they would go prefer more towards Declan Rice, in my opinion. I think Arsenal's priority this season has been a DM role, like the likes of Declan Rice. That's the destination I think Declan Rice would go this summer. And the fact that Jorginho's leaving after 6 months spell with them. So they got Jesus, they got Saka, they got Martinelli on the left. So,
Odegaard.
Odegaard as well. Like, if they want to go for an attacker this summer, I think Havertz would not suit them, in my opinion. I think he would suit him more to the higher line teams like Real Madrid. And even though, like you said, even though the talks have been slow with Bayern Munich, but you're never going to discount out these guys because at the moment, the window's not open yet. You never know if Tuchel changed his mind if he wants Havertz in the team alone. Plus the fact that Real Madrid they just lost Benzema to idiot as well with Kante. So are they going to prioritize more towards Harry Kane or Kai Havertz in that sense, or they could buy two of them? Because at the moment they only got Rodrigo, Vinicius, and I don't know who their backup is.
Asensio's gone as well, so
yeah,
you know they are going to need options there. But yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. I ultimately think that Kai Havertz to Real Madrid will happen, but I think it's just a tactic from Madrid to try and get that price down and try and get Chelsea to drop the asking price. And then I think we'll meet somewhere in the middle. I think it'll be £42 million with add-ons, taking it up to around 52 million pounds. And I think, excuse me, I think that's a fair deal for all parties involved. But in terms of like the centre forward, mate, we're desperate for a centre forward. I look at the market, and I don't know what you think. I don't think there's that many good options out there. Obviously, you've got the standout in Victor Osimhen, standout in Harry Kane, but Harry Kane's never going to come to Chelsea, in my opinion. Osimhen is going to have his pick of the suitors. Again, if Madrid can't get Kane, they could easily go for Victor Osimhen. So, and when we're competing against Real Madrid, like, I'm not putting us down as a club, but you can't compete with that. No one's competing with Real Madrid. If you've got a choice between Real Madrid and Chelsea, Real Madrid or whatever, you're going to Real Madrid, the history, biggest club in the world, everything that famous white shirt means. So we are going to struggle to compete on that sense. But you're looking at Osimhen, you're looking at Vlahovic, Martinez, all three strikers from Serie A. I mean, Ivan Toney would have been my choice, but for obvious reasons, that's now not going to happen. That's on the shelf. What do you think would best suit us as a centre forward? Because as I've just gone through, there's not that many good options out there.
I think not a lot of options out there. I heard our rumors linking up with apparently we're trying to do a deal with Man City. If you want to cover Kovacic, they had to include Alvarez in that deal. I don't think Alvarez would come to Chelsea.
No, that's never going to happen. Yeah.
Osimhen, for me, I think is going to stay at Napoli, just purely because I think that Enrique is going to come into that team. Harry Kane, we got a history with Tottenham player that come into our team, especially the Poch as well, the Poch factor. He used to love Harry Kane in that sense, and it's a tough ask, you know. And Lautaro Martinez, I've heard links about him as well, and apparently we're trying to keep Lukaku at Inter Milan, but at the moment Inter don't have the money right now to buy Lukaku from Chelsea. I think they would want us to buy either Lautaro Martinez in that sense, in my opinion. And I would not be surprised if we somehow link with Lautaro, because let's say if Inter wins the Champions League final, I think he'll stay in that club. But like you said,
it'd be the perfect point to leave, though, wouldn't it? Like, you can't it doesn't get any better than that. But again, I think we've got players that Inter might be interested in. You know, if they want to keep Lukaku for another season on loan, maybe we could include that as part of the Lautaro deal potentially. But yeah, it is tricky. Vlahovic, again, talented boy. We've not really seen the best of him. I think he's struggled at Juventus this season. Osimhen's going to cost a phenomenal amount of money, 120, 130 million euros potentially. And you think we've been down this road before, spending big money on strikers, and it doesn't really work out. Is that best for the team? Is that what we're looking to do? Does it fit Pochettino's style of play? Is he the right character for the dressing room? All these questions that need to be thought about. It's not, and I think we perhaps do need to move away from what we've done in the past, where we've just thought, right, big name, scores goals, let's buy him, without thinking about any of the other things. How does he suit the league? Does he suit the team? Does he suit the dressing room? Is he the right character? These are all the things that we've got to be more detailed about when we're looking to sign players, because I think that's where we've come unstuck in a lot of situations. But I really couldn't say who we're going to get. Again, Lautaro Martinez, Pochettino reportedly really wants him. Then you've got reports coming out saying that, we're going to face competition from Real Madrid for his signature, which again, if it comes down to a straight shootout between Chelsea and Real Madrid, and Real Madrid want Lautaro Martinez, particularly for those South American players, you can't say no to Real Madrid. So I feel that we could find ourselves in a tricky situation. I mean, there could be a situation where maybe, we get a lesser striker and we're using Kunku as an option at centre forward potentially.
Apparently there's a link to Gabri Vega though.
I think he's an 8 though, isn't he? He's more of an 8. But again, he could potentially play a little bit higher at the pitch. He could maybe rotate within Kunku as a 10 if that was needed. But yeah, bro, do you worry about the centre forward? Like, because we've not had a good hit rate, and we are desperate for one. This signing, whoever it is at centre forward, this has to work.
It's a tough ask, man, and I feel a lot in that sense that there's not a lot of market out there, that is really intriguing to us in that sense. For me, the problem I had with Osimhen is that it's not the fact that I don't want him in the Premier League. It's that for me, if I deep it, his physical condition does not suit that Premier League. And with Lautaro, he's got that experience in his bag, and people saying that he should. But it all depends what Pochettino wants to do with Lautaro, because I feel like the partnership with Enzo and Lautaro I think it could work in that sense that if he somehow can accommodate Lautaro Martinez into this team, I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed and to see by the next season. But yeah, it's just tough. It's just tough, and also a bit of worry in that sense that there's not a lot of market out there that literally intriguing for us in that sense.
Yeah,
I, I
there's
could
not,
I
mate.
could dream if I want. I could dream if I say like I won't want Mbappe on our team at the moment, but it's not going to be that possible. But
Nah, this is it. The way I see it ultimately is that, like, if Pochettino wants Lautaro Martinez and he thinks he can get that to work and he thinks it's pivotal to his plans, we need to go and get him what he wants or do our best to get him what he wants. That's ultimately what it comes down to. We have to give the manager what he wants and do it to the best of our ability. And if that means Lautaro Martinez, that means Lautaro Martinez, and we have to trust the manager to get the best out of him and get him to work in the Chelsea system. But there's not a lot of options out there. But, bro, just to round this one out, we're going to chat goalkeepers. And whilst we've been chatting strikers, I've just been having a little look on Twitter, and there's breaking news from L'Equipe, the main outlet in France, and they're saying that Chelsea have initiated contact over the possible signing of Mike Maignan from AC Milan. The Blues are seriously considering Maignan. However, for the moment, AC Milan don't want to sell him. Now, for me, the main thing is that Maignan would be my main target. I think he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. He'd be fantastic. Obviously, the unrest with Maldini and the other directors being sacked. Supposedly, players like Maignan, Rafael, not particularly happy with what's happened there. I suppose it's good to be opportunistic, try and take advantage of this uncertainty at Milan. Bro, how would you feel about a move for Mike Maignan? Because for me, I think it's a no-brainer. It makes complete sense. He's better than Onana, and if we're going shopping in Milan, we have to get Maignan. So, I mean, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that sort of did rhyme there. But yeah, Mike Maignan, what are you saying?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he's been available, because I thought we would get a competition with Man United in that sense. But like you said, I think there's a situation that AC Milan that has been sustaining at the moment. The fact that they just lost the director Paolo Maldini. So I think from us perspective, we could take this advantage in that sense that we could also offer Mendy in that swap deal for Mike
Yeah,
Maignan.
or Loftus-Cheek or
All of
Ziyech
the
or
as well in
Pulisic.
that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, we've got options. I mean, would he be your main choice in goal? Do you prefer that to Onana, or you prefer that to David Raya, or the other names that we've been linked with? Because, again, like the centre forward market, the goalkeeper market, there's not an awful lot of good options out there either.
It's all about how we approach the business end of the deal. And for me, it's that lots of teams right now have been dictating on how we approach the deal. You know, the 8-year contract, the wage structure itself. Now they're trying to play a low ball with us in that sense, that they're playing the hard tactics in that sense, and we need to approach and during that deal in that sense, that the fact that we want him we want him in our football club, but at the same time, you have to give that a bit of great structure for both sides to make that a great deal. So yeah, I would love to have him in the club at the moment, and I just think that what we had at the moment, we got Kepa and Mendy. Those two at the moment for me has been
Not good enough.
Not good enough at the moment, and especially Mendy in that sense. I think he's been declined since the end of 2022 season, and he hasn't been starting a lot of games this season, a lot this time around, and it's a sad decline for him. But I think it's time to move on, and we need a fresh pace in front of the goal.
No, we absolutely do. I think it's clear that Edouard Mendy is definitely going to leave. I think Kepa's going to be more tricky to get rid of, purely because of the wages. I can't see, unless he takes a massive pay cut where he go somewhere, then we're going to be stuck with him. You know, that he was close. I mean, he was reportedly close to joining Lazio or Napoli on loan last summer. That didn't happen. And ultimately, with the wages that he's on, and we signed him on a massive contract, so he's still got a good few years left on that. So we're not in a particularly strong position in terms of getting rid of him. And I think, you know, it's clear that, you know, Chelsea always like to say that, you know, we want to have two really good goalkeepers. We've had that with Cech and Kudachini, Cech and Courtois, kind of Kepa and Mendy now to a lesser extent. But, you know, Kepa's not going to play much next season for me. If we're signing a goalkeeper, we're signing a goalkeeper to play as the first choice. We're not signing him as competition for Kepa. We're signing him as a first choice keeper. Like Mike Maignan or Onana, whoever it ends up being, it's not going to come to Chelsea to be second choice. They'd be coming to play. And we need to upgrade our goalkeepers. So I look at it and I would think that, yeah, do you know what? We need an upgrade. Mate, can you see a situation where we sell both goalkeepers? I just personally just don't see a market for Kepa.
I personally think we sell Mendy, in my opinion. I agree what you said. I think the only thing that I can see we keeping Kepa this season is the experience card. I think for me, he's the second player alongside Thiago Silva.
I didn't realize he was like 28 or something.
Yeah,
I thought he was a bit younger than that, but he's not.
It's not that old, to be fair. But you need the experience and the leadership as well in that dressing room, because we're gonna lose a lot of talent. Like Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho's already gone. Aspie's on his way out the door as well. So who's gonna be the one that leading the ship? No, you need some support for Thiago Silva. He can't do it on his own.
No, we do, bro. And you think about it, talking of leadership, which is a massive thing at the club, we're lacking it big time. Like, who's going to be the next captain at Chelsea? I think Thiago Silva and Kepa will share the armband. I think next season if Kepa's still here. But then you're looking at next captain, which we're going to need to think about in a year or so's time. No obvious choices. I mean, Reece James always gets talked about. I think Enzo Fernandez could potentially develop into a captain, but I think it's still quite early to give it to him. Mate, we're massively struggling with captaincy choices. I mean, do you agree that next season it will be Thiago Silva?
I think it'll be Thiago Silva next season.
It's the only choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
who else can we give it to?
Not a lot of option out there. I think it's going to be Thiago Silva, that's for sure. And also, as much as I hate to say this, probably Kepa as well.
Well, it will be, because Kovacic and Jorginho are other guys that took the armband. They're both not going to be here. So yeah, looking at Silva and Kepa if they play. I mean, if Silva and Kepa don't play in a game, fuck knows who's going to be captain. Could well be Reece James, I'd imagine. In that case, then
could be Chilwell.
Yeah, maybe. But this is the point, though. This here highlights a complete lack of leadership on the pitch, and kind of guys that we thought could have been potential captains maybe aren't, or they're just not quite ready yet, and we're going to have to work on that and develop those players. But yeah, seems like a good point to round out this episode. We've got through plenty as always, guys. So make sure you smash the likes, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV, and leave your thoughts in the comments as well, guys. Fathur, thanks for your time as always, bro. Great to chat all things Chelsea.
Nice always, guys. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll catch you again in another episode soon, guys. Up the Chelsea.